I want to tell you something that took me 20 years to admit. I wasted them. Not because I was lazy, not because I was stupid. I wasted 20 years because I was chasing something that was never really mine. I was 34 years old when I made the decision that changed everything. I had a good job, a loving wife, 2 young children who called me daddy and ran to the door when I came home. And I walked away from all of it. Not physically, I was still there, still in the house, still sitting at the dinner table. But I was gone, because in my head I was already somewhere else, somewhere bigger, somewhere I believed I deserved to be. If you have ever told yourself just a few more years, just one more push, just until I make it, please watch this until the very end. Because I believed that too, and I want to show you exactly where it leads. When I was a young man, I had a dream. I wanted to build something, a business, something with my name on it, something that people would point to and say he built that. My father had worked for other people his entire life, came home tired every night, died without ever owning anything he could call his own. I swore I would be different. So at 34, with a wife, 2 kids, a mortgage, and a steady income, I decided to chase it. I told my wife it would take 2 years. She believed me. I believed me. We were both wrong. The first year was exciting. I was working 14-hour days, but I did not feel tired. I felt alive, like I was finally becoming the person I was supposed to be. My wife would put the children to bed alone. She would leave dinner on the stove for me. Some nights I came home after midnight and she was already asleep. I told myself she understands. She knows this is for us, for our future. But here is what I did not understand then. While I was building my future, my present was quietly falling apart. In those early days, I told myself a story. I told myself that successful people sacrifice, that the greatest men in history gave everything to their work, that my family would understand one day, that one day I would make it up to them. I had a notebook. I used to write in it every night before I slept. Goals, plans, projections, numbers. I still have that notebook. I found it last year in a box in the garage. I sat down and I read through it, page after page of dreams, of plans, of the life I was going to build. And I noticed something. In 200 pages of writing, my wife's name appeared 3 times. My daughter's name appeared twice. My son's name appeared once. In 200 pages about my future, my son appeared once. I closed that notebook and I have not opened it since. 2 years became 5. 5 became 10. The business had moments of promise. There were deals that almost worked, partnerships that fell apart at the last minute, investors who said yes and then said no. I kept going because I had already sacrificed so much. How could I stop now? There is a word for what I was doing: sunk cost. It is what happens when you have invested so much in something that you cannot bring yourself to walk away. Even when walking away is the only sensible thing left to do. Gamblers do it. They keep betting because they have already lost so much that stopping feels like admitting defeat. I was a gambler, except I was not gambling with money. I was gambling with time, with relationships, with the childhood of my children. And unlike money, those things cannot be won back. I remember a conversation with my father-in-law. He was a quiet man, never said much. But one evening he pulled me aside at a family dinner. He put his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Son, I have watched you for 10 years now, and I want to tell you something as a man who is near the end of his life." He said, "The things you are chasing will not be there at the end, but these people will be, if you let them." I nodded. I thanked him. I went back to the dinner table, and the next morning I was back at my desk at 6 a.m. I did not listen. I wish I had listened. That is the trap nobody warns you about. The longer you chase the wrong thing, the harder it becomes to stop. Because stopping means admitting that the years you already gave were wasted, and that is a truth too painful to face. So you keep going. My daughter turned 7, then 10, then 13. I remember her 13th birthday. She had invited friends over. There was a cake. There was music. I was on a call in the bedroom for 2 hours. When I came out, the friends were gone. The cake had been cut. My daughter was cleaning up the table alone. She looked up at me and said, "It is okay, Dad. I know you are busy." She was 13 years old and she was already making excuses for me. I went back into the bedroom and I sat on the edge of the bed. And for the first time in 10 years I cried. Not because the business was failing, but because I suddenly saw clearly what was actually happening. I was not building a future for my family. I was stealing their present and calling it love. My wife's name is Carol. She is the most patient woman I have ever known. For 15 years she waited. She raised our children almost alone. She worked part-time to help with bills when the business was struggling. She never complained, not once. But patience has a limit. One evening, it was a Tuesday. I remember this clearly. She placed a cup of tea on my desk, and she sat down across from me. She said, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to really hear me." I looked up from my laptop. She said, "Do you still want this life? Because I am not sure you are in it anymore." I told her she was being unfair. I told her everything I was doing was for her, for the family. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I have not felt like your wife in 7 years. I feel like your assistant, your housekeeper, the woman who keeps things running so you can chase something that keeps moving further away." She stood up and she walked out of the room. I sat there staring at my laptop screen, and I realized I could not argue with a single word she had said. I did not stop immediately. I wish I could tell you I did. It took another 8 months. The business finally collapsed. A partner I had trusted for 6 years took the last of our investment capital and disappeared. There was nothing left to chase. I remember the day I closed the office for the last time. I drove home in silence. No phone calls, no emails, just silence. I walked into the house at 3 in the afternoon, something I had not done in 20 years. My son was sitting at the kitchen table doing homework. He was 16. He looked up and said, "Dad, is everything okay?" And I said, "I think it is going to be now." He looked confused. But that was the day I came back. Not to the house. I had always been in the house. I came back to my family. My father-in-law passed away 2 years after that conversation at the dinner table. At his funeral, my wife gave a speech. She talked about how present he had always been, how he had never missed a birthday, how he had shown up, really shown up for every important moment in their lives. She cried when she spoke about him, and I sat in that pew and I felt something shift inside me. I looked at my wife crying for her father, and I thought, when my time comes, will she be able to say the same things about me? Will my daughter stand up and say my father was really there? Will my son say he never missed what mattered? I already knew the answer, and I did not like it. That funeral was the beginning of my real change. Not the business collapsing, not Carol's speech in my office, not my daughter cleaning up her own birthday cake. It was sitting in a church watching my wife grieve a man who had done it right, and realizing I still had time to become that man. Not all of it. Some of it was already gone, but some of it was still there. And I was going to use every single day of what remained. Let me tell you what those 20 years actually cost me. I missed my daughter growing up, her first heartbreak, her school performances, the 1,000 small moments that make a childhood. She is an adult now. We have a relationship. But there is a distance, a careful politeness that was not there when she was 7 and used to climb into my lap without asking. That distance has a name. It is called absence. And it does not disappear just because you show up later. My marriage survived, but it took 3 years of real work to repair what 15 years of neglect had done. Carol forgave me. But forgiveness is not the same as forgetting. Some mornings I still see it in her eyes, a flicker of something, the memory of all those dinners alone, all those birthdays I was half present for, and the dream itself, the business I sacrificed everything for. It is gone, like it never existed. 20 years, gone. So what did I learn? I learned that the wrong dream does not announce itself. It comes dressed as ambition, as responsibility, as love for your family. It whispers just a little longer, just a little more. You are almost there. And while you are listening to that whisper, life is happening in the next room. Your children are growing up in the next room. Your partner is becoming lonely in the next room. And one day you will walk into that room and realize you missed it. I am not telling you to give up your dreams. Please hear me clearly on this. I am telling you to look up. Look at the faces around you right now. Ask yourself, am I present in my own life? Or am I somewhere else in my head, chasing something that keeps moving? Because the greatest success you will ever achieve is not something you can put on a wall or deposit in a bank. It is a daughter who calls you just to talk. It is a wife who still reaches for your hand after 30 years. It is a son who says my dad was really there for me. That is the dream worth chasing. I wish I had known that at 34. If this story touched something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. A friend, a husband, a father who is working too hard and missing too much. One share could change a life. Subscribe to Too Late to Know, because some lessons should never come too late.